Hey everyone, it's your Peacekeeper, and it's time for our next and final how to play video in the Japanese battleship line. This is the Tier 10 Yamato class of battleships. The Yamato class battleships were a class of 5 planned battleships, with 3 built between 1937 and 1942. Only 2 ships were actually completed as battleships, that's Yamato and Musashi, with a third, Shinano, being converted into an aircraft carrier. The other 2 were named Warship number 111 and Warship number 797, with the latter being laid down and the former with the latter never being laid down and the former being 30% completed when construction was canceled. The primary design considerations for this class of battleships was to build the ultimate battleship. Japanese naval doctrine at the time called for a distinct, decisive, or grand battle in which 2 navies, which at the time was primarily the U.S. Navy, and Japan would duke it out in one grand battle that involved all of the ships, or the majority of the ships in their fleet. Recognizing that Japan had about the 10th of the industrial capacity of the United States, they focused on building fewer but more powerful ships with better speed, armor, and maneuverability than their U.S. counterparts. The class's entire construction was obscured by a massive blanket of secrecy. All the design plans used a fake name for the main batteries. It was a 41 centimeter gun name. It was actually a placeholder for the 46 centimeter guns that would eventually go on it. And what the U.S. knew about this ship when it was created, and even all the way up until their sinkings, was very, very little. In fact, up to their sinking, and actually just after, many sources in the U.S. were still reporting these ships as only having 16-inch guns and only weighing in at 45,000 tons in displacement. That's a far cry from the nearly 75,000 tons they would have at the time of their sinking. The designs for the class actually began in the mid-1930s with the A140 design studies, which, as you remember, Izumo was actually a part of those design studies. The designs had a number of interesting choices made in propulsion, armament, and armament, as we saw with Izumo, but the final design for Yamato would be, as we see here. Just as an interesting side note, all these designs kind of played around with this hybrid diesel oil design, but due to a lack of reliability on these Taige, which I believe was a seaplane tender, maybe it was a sub-tender, I'll look it up later. Due to the lack of reliability of the engines on that ship, they actually canceled it and just went back to what they had that was working, which was steam turbines and boilers using oil-fired. In terms of service history, Yamato and Musashi spent the majority of their time in port due to the high operating costs in both fuel and manpower to the ships. The Japanese felt that the high number of U.S. submarines and U.S. carrier fleets posed too great of a risk of losing the ships, and thus their powerful armament that was needed to win that final decisive battle. Nevertheless, Yamato and Musashi did both sortie on combat missions. Yamato was the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet at Midway, but did not fire in anger. And in 1943, she was torpedoed by the USS Skate, a Baleo-class submarine. Baleo-class? That's a diesel sub! The Navy doesn't even use those anymore. Sorry, down Periscope reference. After being hit by that torpedo, she was forced to return to Kure for repairs. Yamato was part of the 2nd Fleet at the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which was a Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, as it's known in the U.S., and she was utilized as an escort to the Japanese carriers there. She also participated in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, in which she used her main guns in anger for what was probably the first and last time. She straddled the USS White Plains at an impressive 34,544 yards and caused a damaging near miss. The shell went underneath of the USS White Plains and detonated underneath of it. It kind of had that, what they call it, a mining effect. When a explosion happens underneath of a ship, it doesn't actually contact the ship. It can still cause damage. In fact, torpedoes at the outset of World War II, and maybe I'll have to do a video on this as well, actually used magnetic pistols to detonate underneath the hull, and that's what we do today. It actually causes more damage that way. The USS White Plains was not really heavily damaged. It did cause some flooding in the ship, but it did not sink the ship. During Leyte Gulf, at the Battle of Sibian Sea, she took 2 armor-piercing bomb hits from aircraft launched by the USS Essex, but only suffered minor damage. During the Battle off of Samar, also in the Leyte Gulf campaign, she hit the USS Gambier Bay, which led to the sinking of that escort carrier, but due to the belief that they were attacking a much larger task force thanks to the efforts of Taffy 3, they decided, Admiral Takeo Kurita ordered all the ships to break off and return home. Yamato would be sunk during Operation Tengo, which would happen later, obviously, which was a one-way trip planned to beach Yamato on Okinawa, the island of Okinawa, to serve as an unsinkable gun battery. She was intercepted and sunk by aircraft from Admiral Mark Mitscher's carriers after a heated debate between Mitscher and Admiral Spruance as to whether or not the U.S. would sortie 6 fast battleships, the 3 South Dakotas, Massachusetts, Indiana, and South Dakota, and the 3 Iowas, New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Missouri, or to strike with the aircraft from the carriers. Ultimately, the carriers won that decision, and they did end up sinking her before she managed to beach herself at Okinawa. Musashi, like Yamato, participated in the Battle of Philippine Sea and the Battle of Leyte Gulf, but she would be sunk at Leyte by a concentrated attack by U.S. aircraft. She would be struck by 19 torpedoes and 17 bombs during the engagement, which caused her to list, heavily roll over, and then explode before sinking entirely. They did actually find Musashi's wreck, and there were some rumors not too long ago about possibly raising the wreck and turning it into a museum, although I don't think that's ever going to gain any support with the Japanese people at this time. In terms of their in-game playstyle, man, this is going to generate some salt, so bear with me, allow me to explain before you crucify me in the comments. Yamato benefits heavily from having those 460mm guns, which are the only guns in the game of this size and the only guns in this game that can overmatch a 32mm bow armor of most of the other Tier 10 battleships. While her AP damage is extremely high and her accuracy is good, she's plagued with poor turret traverse and an artificially handicapped ship maneuverability. Add in the fact that there's just so much raw penetrating capability and such long fuse times on these shells, it's really difficult to do consistently good damage against softer targets like cruisers and destroyers, so she really excels at being kind of a battleship hunter. Her anti-aircraft suite is actually quite poor for Tier 10, even though she has a lot of her AA concentrated in dual-purpose gun mounts. Her superstructure is massive and is a receptacle for high explosive shells. All of those mentioned features mean she gets focused down early and hard by enemy fire. It takes a lot of patience and map awareness to use Yamato to push cap positions and not get sunk real early in the game. She is best played with having a copious amount of support behind her to help assist in taking some of the heat off of her and focus down enemy targets quicker. She also features one of the best torpedo damage reduction systems in the game and also has a very capable secondary battery suite for those looking to engage enemies within that 10.6K secondary battery build range. Now, I feel obligated to point this out. There was actually several flaws in the belt system for Yamato in real life. I don't feel that this TDS value is justified, but game balance, I guess. One other thing that's worth mentioning is her armor profile makes angling in this ship very dangerous due to this hexagonal citadel. If you are not angled enough to bait them into shooting this thick 410mm belt armor, if they know to shoot underneath the number 1 turret, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get citadel hits from it. Yes, it is angled heavily, but it is also angled here. So any shells that are coming in are going to hit this plate flat, and at closer ranges especially, that will result in a citadel hit, even while angled. So that means this ship is basically a bow camper, like through and through. Point the front towards the enemy and leave it at that. That's why having support is so important. You got to keep ships off the side of your ship. Her Citadel is also above water, and it is guarded by 410 millimeters worth of armor. And honestly, getting Citadel'd in Yamato is not all that common. It does happen, but it's very, very rare. Like Zhao, her armor is very trolly in that it doesn't always, hitting the broadside of her does not always result in Citadels because it does sit low along the water. It's not like the US battleships were sitting way high before they lowered them. Overall, I don't care for Yamato. This ship's playstyle is too passive for me. Anytime you get too aggressive, her lack of maneuverability, her lack of ability to get up to speed, the poor turret traverse, all of that stuff really adds up to being kind of a non-starter for me. I much prefer a more aggressive playstyle than what she actually provides. And I know that's going to frustrate some people because this is the ultimate battleship ever built, which I disagree with, but it couldn't possibly be that bad. Well, for me, it doesn't match my playstyle, and as a result, I don't play her that well. In fact, if you go look at my stats in this ship, not particularly impressive, although it has gotten better the more and more I've played her and started to figure out some of her nuances. Let's dive into her stats. She has 97,200 hit points, 410 millimeters of belt armor. That torpedo damage reduction is 56%. Considering the ship had a massive flaw in her torpedo defense and the junction of her armor belt, I don't see this as justified, but whatever. All right, so the main battery, you do have a 26.6K range. The main battery consists of 3x3, so 9 total, 18.1 inch or 460 millimeter guns. Those are 18.1 inches of just pure hate and discontent. AP shell damage of 14,800 damage. Very, very high damage. In fact, at this point in time of the release ships in the game, the most damage of any shell in the game. Her secondary battery is quite impressive. She has a total of, well, she has a lot actually, of 5-inch gun mounts. She has 12 dual gun mounts. They're going to come in two different forms, an armored version and an unarmored version. And they will have a 7.7K range. I think that's going to be... No, that's not with AFT. There's no AFT on this captain. So 7.7K is her base secondary range. And she also has 2 of these triple 155mm guns. There's going to be one up front. Get rid of the armor here. One up front and one out back. Those shoot AP, unfortunately, but... You know, all of these 12 dual, so 24 total 5-inch gun mounts actually shoot HE, and they will reach out, both of these will reach out to 10.6K when in a full secondary build, which is the max of any secondaries. In terms of anti-aircraft gun mount, she has 46 of the triple 25mm guns, 3.1K range on those. Her 5-inch gun mounts, all 24 of them count as dual-purpose gun mounts, and they count towards her AA. 5K is what those go out to. On an AA build, the AA is not completely awful, but it's not exactly great either. In fact, I think Grosser Kurfürst actually has much better AA in the AA build, even without all the true AA skills. But this ship definitely benefits much heavier from manual fire control for AA than other ships do. Max speed 27 knots, turning circle radius of 900 meters. This is artificially inflated. Her real life one was 640 meters. Yes, you heard that right, 640 meters. Rudder shift time of 17.6 seconds. That's going to be with the rudder shift module. That's glacial compared to other ships in this game. In real life, it was actually faster. Concealment. Detection range by sea, 13.5K. Detection range by air, 12.4K. This is as stealthy as this ship is going to get. So, something to keep in mind. Surprise Yamato at 13.5K, that's a nasty surprise. In terms of upgrades, you'll see here I've got main armaments mod 1 here. I have selected main armaments mod 1 because While the main battery doesn't get taken out that often on this ship, I do feel that this ship benefits heavily from this. There's nothing wrong with taking Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1, which, as you guys know, I highly recommend doing. If you are planning on doing a secondary build, or you're trying to do an AA build, you're trying to keep your AA alive as long as possible. Either of those two options, I've chosen Main Armaments Mod 1 simply because that's what's been on the ship since the dawn of time, and it's nice not to have the turrets get shell racked, where the crew gets screwed up and it takes them out, it gets them incapacitated. It's nice not to have that on this ship simply because that's really all you're relying on for damage in the build that I've got set up. In this second slot, I'm taking Aiming Systems Mod 1 for the reduction in dispersion. You've got a lot of good options here. I can see a case being made for just about every one of these. Obviously, Secondary Battery Mod 2 if you're going for a secondary build, AA Guns Mod 2 if you're going for an AA build, and Main Battery Mod 2 if you're willing to put up with slightly longer reload times to have slightly quicker turning turrets. This Main Battery Mod 2 really isn't that strong of an upgrade in my opinion. I don't particularly care for it. I think the penalties are far too high for a ship like Yamato. In the third slot, you'll see here I'm running Main Battery Mod 3, which is going to reduce my reload down 4-ish seconds. I think it takes the reload down to 26.4. Yes, it also makes the turrets traverse slower, but the increase in rate of fire and at the ranges at which I play, which are primarily the mid-ranges, the 12 to 15k, I find that this actually is very useful, keeping that rate of fire high. You got a lot of damage potential by doing this. You could run two other upgrades, AA Guns Mod 3 and Secondary Battery Mod 3 for the respective AA and secondary builds. In the fourth slot, Damage Control Systems Mod 1, that's pretty much the standard for all battleships. There's really no reason to run these other two. Usually it requires a torpedo hit to take out your engines or your steering. I guess you could get your engines knocked out by a Citadel hit, but that's really not all that common, and usually your repair is up when those happen, and it's not long behind when it does happen, and you're durable enough that when it happens, it's not that big of a deal. In the second to last slot, I am running Steering Gears Mod 2 to take our glacial rudder shift time down to something more manageable. That's that 17.6 seconds is actually more manageable than what it is without this. Some people will run Damage Control Systems Mod 2 for the durability, so that you can stay in the battle a little bit longer. That certainly works if you're playing at the mid to long ranges. Again, I much prefer battleship maneuverability over just tanking raw damage. And with how quickly the ship gets focused, I'd much rather be able to steer and eliminate damage entirely than just reduce the time it takes for fires and floods to be repaired. Propulsion Systems Mod 2, really not all that useful. I guess if you're going to play the ship stationary, backing up and going forward in true bow camping fashion, this could be useful for you. Me, not so much. In the final slots, you can make a good case for either one of these. I'm running Concealment Systems Mod 1 because 13.5k in a battleship with 18-inch guns is a touch ridiculous. It's not quite as good as Montana or Iowa or Alabama or North Carolina, but it's still pretty dang good. Surprise Yamato is probably the worst surprise that you can get. If you're going to play the ship in a secondary role and you're going to push real hard and heavy with it, I definitely recommend taking Target Acquisition Systems Mod 1, if for no other reason than the plus 20% to the acquisition range of torpedoes. You're going to spot those torpedoes out just a little bit further, and that's going to help you a lot. The other things on there, the increase to spotting range really isn't that useful. You can already see further than you can shoot in this ship. And the plus 50% to the range of assured acquisition of enemy ships. Your turrets traverse so slow that if you're within 3.5k of a ship or 3k, whatever it is, that's sitting in smoke or behind an island, you're probably going to die anyway. I suppose it's a nice side benefit, but really the main reason to get Target Acquisition Systems Mod 1 is for the torpedo range, spotting range, so that you spot them further, the torpedo spotting range increase. Anyway, enough of me blabbing about this. Let's go look at a battle video. Alright, so this battle is obviously going to be a tier 10 fight, and I won't spoil the awesomeness that this battle is. In fact, I debated heavily between using this one, and I have another video that shows me doing, I think it's like 207,000 damage, like 2 sinks. Didn't really feel like using that one over this one. This one I felt showed what the ship is capable of better. Yes, I am currently playing this with Ark, who is running, I believe it's a secondary build Yamato. Don't quote me on that. And the map is Haven, which this is a fantastic map. Props to Wargaming for getting this map figured out, getting this map out there. Again, if you've not seen my other videos in which I play on Haven, I generally tend to stick to the southern area, unless there is some pressing need to rush back up north, so that means we're going to probably end up going towards B. That's usually where I go on this map. Again, this ship, with its angling, with the desire not to angle because of that hexagonal citadel, it's really difficult to put yourself in a position like between B and C to maximize targets to both. I strongly recommend going one direction and finding some good hard cover to keep shells off of you from one or the other direction, so that you can angle specifically towards the most lethal target to you. And because we're going over here towards B, we're going to choose a little bit more of a southerly route, but that doesn't mean that we're completely abandoning the idea of pushing into B. It's just a matter of time before we get there. This match is also kind of a small one. You can see here we got 4 destroyers, a cruiser, and 4 battleships. 9 total ships in this match. Their fleet is a little bit less better off on this. They got 4 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and 3 battleships. Now they have 2 Grosser Kurfürsts, and that is a pretty potent package if they're coordinating together and they're using that hydroacoustic. It means they're going to be pretty much untouchable by the Shimikazes that are on our team. There's also Z42 that's off to the south there. Our Fletcher and Khabarovsk are up north, and we are going to be fishing for targets. Now you'll notice here, really not keen up on the really awesome turret traverse here, but it does work. Got ourselves a broadside Mogami. Look at that dispersion. That vertical dispersion is insane, but we swing and we miss entirely. We got Grosser Kurfürst spotted. Things are looking pretty good. We've got pretty much both caps are being captured at this point, which is good sign. Grosser Kurfürst here. That's probably going to be a bit much, but one of the key things here is to, coordinate. Wow, that's 2 sets of Yamato shells right there. Yep. So only 6,300 damage. Not a whole lot there to write home about. However, damage done is always beneficial. Now we have Tashkent there and a Shimikaze off to the south, so that's definitely worth paying attention to. There's always a risk of that. And our guns are up once again, so we're going to shoot once again. Bouncing some shells from a North Carolina. And our shells are going to find home. 15,000 damage done to that Grosser Kurfürst. And Ark adds in, I think it was 6k, I think is what he said. But we got ourselves a destroyer here up close and personal. Now pay attention to their destroyers, because that's going to be key to this at the end of this match. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Shooting at this Grosser Kurfürst, you saw that I was aiming at the waterline. Part of that was because of the way that the shells on this ship work, but mostly it was because he was coming towards me slightly, which meant that any shells that I do fire should have hit higher, but he wasn't moving fast enough for those to actually happen. So I'm sitting here stationary by B, trying to support our Shimikaze, who is fighting a gearing. However, we're not able to see the gearing, so we're shooting at battleships. We need to pay attention to Shimikaze, possible Shimikaze torps coming from the south and west. There's the Tashkent. So Ark and I, it looks like we're getting ready to push on into the cap a little bit here. That means that we're going to need to be pretty aggressive about our push in and make ourselves well known. But what's Ark doing? I don't know. Oh, hey, torpedoes. Crap. Good thing Yamato has the highest TDS value, one of the highest TDS values in the game. I think it is actually the highest. And thank goodness Ark was there to, you know, prevent me from hitting that torpedo. Look at that torpedo beat. And Ark ends up eating a torpedo. Oh. All right, North Carolina, you're up. So it's your turn to accept the 18-inch love at which I give. And 11,000. So we're doing some pretty good damage with the relatively low number of shell hits here. We've got lots of torpedoes out headed that way. We've got B capped. It's not being capped by anything else. You know, we're not doing too shabby here. Grosser Kerfurst sitting kind of stationary there. We'll go ahead and do 9,700 damage to him, and then we're going to shoot at him again. He's not even looking at me. Second salvo, we got a penetrating hit, but no damage done to it. Didn't even look like it took out his turret, which makes me sad. And here we are pushing up. So we are in the middle of B at the moment. One thing to remember is there's a Shimakaze. Oh, there he is! Well, would you look at that. Mr. Shimakaze. That's kind of rude. You know what happens when a Shimakaze comes into a fight. You know it's because he is definitely going for the torpedo run, which means we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a full complete turn here. Part of this is the, you know, the desire not to receive a whole bunch of torpedoes, but as a battleship, you know, especially one with such a slow turret traverse and such high pen values, it's really difficult to engage a destroyer in a destroyer-on-destroyer fight. Now, we're detected, which means that if that Shimakaze didn't launch torpedoes, which I don't see him, it means that he's most likely going to. It means I need to slam on the brakes so as not to receive any of the torpedoes that come from his smoke. And we're still chilling over here, and the map situation's getting kind of hairy. You can see here that it is currently, yes, there's those torpedoes. That's like, it's my 6th sense, not my 4th sense like it was in the in my Hipper video. A little bit more awake in making of this video. So yes, Shimakaze. There, okay, so Shimakaze pops up. Ooh, we got torpedoes coming from behind. Well, we're going to definitely eat at least one, probably more. So there's one. These other ones, we want to definitely make sure that if we're going to eat multiples, that we hold our flood off. Okay, so there's another one. Okay, so we took quite a lot of damage there, and that was the downside to this. Ark comes up, and he is able to go ahead and take some of the pressure off. I'm gonna set my secondaries there to Shimakaze while we try and see if we can't put this Tashkent out of commission. See if we can't get our rear guns to focus on Shima. And we got one overpen on him. Got a secondary hit on something. That has to be that Tashkent because the Shimakaze's out of my range. And we'll go ahead and select him here so that they prioritize him since he's within that magical range. Mr. Bones! He's going broadside in a DD. That's smart. That's a smart tactic. Still going to take 4K off of him, though. And now we're turning back around, and this is going to go back to that map awareness thing. You can see here that there's a number of ships, including a nearly dead Mogami, that are over at basically our spawn. And because of the way this map is going, we need to get back. And I'm screaming at Ark, we need to get back. We've got no support. We lost our DD that was over here helping us. That means that their DDs basically have free reign. And while the ship has really good TDS value, that I don't feel comfortable just eating a whole bunch of torpedoes. So you can see here, I don't like to play the bow on, forward and back camping game. Yes, I did that at the start of this match, but once this match started to evolve, you can see here that I'm going to get way more mobile. And the reason for that is quite simple. There's not enough cover on the sides to deal with the 3 DDs that they have and the torpedoes that they can launch. And as a result, being mobile is infinitely more useful in the long run than, you know, accepting torpedoes. Which, speaking of torpedoes, I wonder if there's a battle tactic here that could be learned. When it comes to dealing with islands and ships that are using islands for cover, or there's an island between you and you're spotted, there's a high probability that enemy destroyers are going to launch torpedoes at you. There's another battle tactic there. What you saw me do is you saw me deselect that Mogami, wait till the rounds were up, then reselect him, fire, and then deselect him again so that he didn't realize that they were on the way. So I citadeled him once, citadeled the Neptune twice, I killed the Mogami, Neptune is nearly dead, we've got ourselves a Grosser Kurfürst, no caps, and it's me and a Fletcher left to deal with this map. Oh, boy. So all of our guns are up, though, and we are presenting a really bad profile to that guy. We're going to go ahead and we're going to engage him with all of our shells. You can see here he did next to none. We got 4 pens. We're up to 108,500 damage. Only 1 kill, though. Our Fletcher, he needs to stop being spotted by this Neptune or whatever is spotting him. We need him to stay alive. This match depends heavily upon him. It does depend on me too, but more or less I'm just the receptacle for enemy shell fire while he does capping and things. So Neptune comes out again and... hey! Got another Citadel for another 17,000 damage. Yo, dog, I hear you like Citadel, so I put a Citadel... Well, I put an AP shell into your Citadel, so you can enjoy that Citadel while being Citadeled. This Fletcher laid smoke, which was absolutely amazing. Make sure you throw thanks out to destroyers that are team players. That's gonna... Ooh, look at those torpedoes. No, Fletcher, don't eat one! Please, please, please don't eat one. I need you to stay alive. So far, so good! Okay, so he lives, we live. It's time to put this Kurfürst out. The disadvantage to the situation that I'm currently in is that I need to get into some hard cover. Oh, hey, high caliber. Need to get into some cover, either via not raid or smoke, or hard cover, because that Neptune is absolutely eating me alive. So now this Fletcher is being detected by something, but we are not. I'm slowing down to hide in this smoke, to see if I can't take out this Grosser Kurfürst. Aim high up on the Grosser Kurfürst because the superstructure pens will kill him like that. Whereas the belt hit, anything that would have hit his bow, would have most definitely ended with me missing or bouncing the shells. So Neptune, he's going broadside to me. Just so you know, the 6-inch guns on this can Citadel cruisers. He's presenting that lovely, lovely profile, and 5,900 damage. We're up to 157,515 damage. 2 kills, 4 sinks. We got a high caliber out of this ordeal. Being spotted by this Neptune's not a big deal. He blew his smoke earlier, so he is basically going to deal with me. Man, there's 3 destroyers over there. Oh my goodness. This is not looking good. I need my Fletcher to stay alive as best he can, but I need to take out this Neptune now, because the Neptune is definitely a bigger threat than those destroyers are at this moment, although they are all equally big threats. Hey, we got a close quarters expert, and we sunk the Neptune with the Citadel hit, so we got double strike, CQE, and we've got high caliber as well. And that means something else is on the line. We've got... Oh, there's Neptune's torpedoes. We've got ourselves a situation where there's a Kraken on the line, and we could snatch this victory up. Like, oh, come on, get the Tashkent. Yo! Nope. All right, okay, so gearing then, I guess. Well, it's now down to me and this gearing... Well, it's down to me versus this gearing and Tashkent. Thankfully, the gearing blew his wad early, and thankfully he doesn't realize that he needs spotting in order to be victorious. Oh, we're detected, so that means that... What? This Tashkent has beached himself in the most awkward of places. Don't mind if I do. I hope you die. Kraken unleashed. We're up to 177,341 damage, but it doesn't look like we're going to get much in the way of dealing with this gearing. He's going to have to come out of the smoke. We're going to have to get some caps, but he's going to have to come out of that smoke, and I'm going to have to be able to engage him. Now, I'm anticipating him coming out the south side of this smoke, but we always want to be prepared for him coming out on the north side. Oh, I didn't realize that the Fletcher apologized. No need to apologize, man. You were clutch at the right moment. You put that smoke out and really helped me out. So, oh, there's the gearing. And, come on, turrets. Yeah, so that's the downside to this ship. The turrets just don't traverse fast enough, and that's going to unfortunately be the end of this match, because all he has to do is stay hidden and continue to win out on the cap points. So that's going to be the end of this match. Anyway, you can kind of see where I'm coming at with Yamato. I mean, it has its strengths. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm showing you a video with a Kraken. Yes, I'm showing you a video with high damage numbers, and the ship certainly is capable of producing a large number of those. My problem with this ship is more the fact that it gets focused down real early in matches if you push too aggressively. And on top of that, the turret traverse is so slow that at close ranges, it's really hard to play the ship well. So ultimately ends up being a defeat. 177,341 damage is really quite good. 5 kills, 1,726 base XP. There's the detailed report and the credits and XP screen. Now, I realize that this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but I hate to break it to you, I play Montana better than I play Yamato, and I much prefer Montana to Yamato for tier 10 battleships. Anyway, that's the controversy for tonight. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.